computer. Team, it is today that we are going to be learning about the topic that everybody here has been waiting to hear about. No doubt the entire term you've been asking yourselves, when in this biochemistry class are we going to be talking about nutritional supplements? Like, when you ever walk through the uh, chat says there's sitting on the edge of my seat, and like, who wouldn't be? So whenever I go to the gas station, I have a little game I like to play, which is, what kind of weird garbage did they put in the energy drink? And so this is an amazing new skill that you have. You have a superpower, which is that you get to decode the odd things that food and beverage manufacturers like to dump into energy drinks. And so I will always walk up and look at it, and look at the drinks, and like the labels on the front now, with your context of biochemistry, are going to seem pretty amusing. It'll be like things like malate, the central energy metabolite for the cell, infuses your body with, energy power from central carbon. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to look at some amazing things that we have pulled together to you, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how much evidence there is for different kinds of supplements and things to actually help or not in, say, athletic performance. So here are a few real-world examples where we have claims made by different supplements that people take. Now, it's interesting to have different perspectives on this. I've had college athletes. I frequently have college athletes in this course, and many of them take some of the things that are in or have used some of these things as a part of their supplementation training regime. And so, in fact, one of those athletes now working for me and my group. And he says, I swear this stuff works. And like, when I use this, it makes things better. So there are different kinds of perspectives on these things. And so people who are professional athletes definitely swear by the use of this different kinds of supplements. What are the claims made by some of these things? Well, in frequent ones, so these have been drawn from our resident dyno football athlete here that we have in our group. Here's a range of things that he's talked about that have come up. So creatine supplementation, right? This is frequently talked about as increasing endurance, giving you stronger muscle pumps, making you quicker recovery in between workouts, all these various claims. Branch chain amino acids, BCAA. When you need to work out, BCAA is there for you. Its claims are that it acts as an anti-catabolic to reduce muscle breakdown. Extremely effective when used in conjunction with L-glutamate, the central amino acid for the cell. Endurance athletes mix this with their electrolyte drinks. Okay, this is valine, leucine, isoleucine, right? So Popeye's supplement. I don't know what that's all about. I guess this is where you can purchase all these things. Isoflex. What does this one got? I don't know what it's got in it. Protein, it looks like whey protein isolate. Yeah, this is something that's also on there. Glutamine, right, which is supposed to enhance muscle recovery, stimulate the release of growth hormones, etc. And of course, there is the ever-present ubiquitous Red Bull, which has a variety of claims like increasing alertness, enhancing cognitive function, elevating mood, improving performance, and allowing for faster recovery after exercise, right? So have you guys, wings, yeah. So chat, before we launch into this, do we want to have a discussion? What do you think? Are you about to tell me it doesn't give me wings? Well, we'll see. So let's get a couple of different opinions on this. So what do you think? What is the role, like, so is there a legitimate role for the use of supplements in improving athletic performance, or these like, is there scientific basis behind these claims? Let's decouple this now from the sort of the funny aspect of it, which is like, you know, all these things, pathways you've been memorizing are like somebody went through the catalog and dumped them into bottles, right? So now let's decouple that and say, okay, what do you think? Could these things improve? Like, is there a justification for how taking these kinds of molecules, eating them, would improve your function? What do you think, chat? So first off, let's give a poll. So we have a question here. At the performance levels beyond our ability, they're at a high performance level beyond most of our ability, there's some science. Okay. To some extent, if you don't have a balanced diet to start with, yeah. So let's take let me frame a few questions and see what you guys think. So can there be a benefit? Yes or no from taking these? And it looks like most people have the opinion that yes, they can. There could be. Okay. So now let's take the take another view of this and ask, okay, so what kind of circumstances do you think would lead to these things being beneficial? And let me give you a few examples. So yes or no for the following. Would it help if you were, for example, nutrient deficient? So yes or no, would these things help in that case? Yeah, that makes sense. How about if you were like, extreme physical exercise, right? How about that case? Yeah, so most people think, yeah, there are probably some contexts where these things, yeah, and Annika is making a good point. Like, it probably depends on the supplement and it depends on the condition. So let's unpack this a little bit and see what is the science behind some of these claims, and like, does it make any sense? Let's find out. Okay, so here are some of the things that we talked about. There are a variety of these supplements that get used. We have caffeine, creatinine, branched chain amino acids, beta-alanine, glutamine, various other things, and they can be categorized into pre-workout, post-workout kinds of supplements. Let's unpack the biochemistry of these a little bit, one by one, piece by piece. So these are popular ones that we've selected. I know from our resident athlete, also from way back in the day when I discovered when I was a kid, and I thought that I was going to be a bodybuilder. I learned that I don't have the genetics for that. So I've taken some of these things myself. So let's talk about creatine. So creatine, as you guys probably remember from one of our early lectures, is in fact something that we use for energy. So creatine phosphate is a molecule that we use as a secondary source of ATP. So in your muscles, you have a very, very limited supply of ATP in all cells, and you can't really increase more of it. For one, there's already a fair amount in terms of osmolality, and two, it's a very tightly regulated molecule. So you can't keep, 50 millimolar ATP around for a variety of reasons, osmolality being one, and also because it would really screw around with your cell physiology. So instead, we keep it in another form, which we can concentrate and have more of. And that's in this phosphocreatine. So your muscles have this secondary pool of phosphate called phosphocreatine, and there's an enzyme called creatine kinase that does convert it quickly into ADP into ATP using this creatine kinase. It's just using phosphocreatine as a source of phosphate, right? That's pretty clever. We don't actually have that much of it either, though. And the reason why is ultimately, same reason why we store sugar as starch, is that there are limits to osmolality. You can't keep an infinite concentration of creatine in your muscles and have it work. And so I guess the thought here behind the supplement is like, maybe if you don't have enough creatine, you don't have as much phosphocreatine. So by having creatine, like, you might have more phosphocreatine, and that would allow you to have more energy in your cells, right? So I think maybe that's part of the kind of the, from the hip rationale for why creatine supplementation would make sense. So creatine kinase, as we're mentioning here, enables the shuttle, and so ultimately it allows you to have a short-term energy burns, with for a longer time without having to dip into your glycolytic capacity. Ultimately, this capacity has to be regenerated. So after exercise, your body has a natural capacity to put phosphates right back onto creatine. So the molecule itself is synthesized very quickly and efficiently inside your cell without you having to do anything with it. This wasn't mentioning the biosynthesis here too, but the other point that I should make is that we don't have any trouble making creatine, right? So creatine biosynthesis is part of our normal activity, and so if you are deficient in creatine, your body will happily make creatine, and so that you are not deficient. That's part of why we have this network of 5,000 organic reactions that we do in all of our cells, is to make sure that we're never deficient in central carbon intermediates, and creatine is one of those. So as you guys have learned here from our flex balance section, when you start increasing or decreasing concentrations of particular molecules, things can just reequilibrate, so that your cells maintain homeostasis. So does it have any effect? Now let's talk about empirical things. So here are published data for ability to perform particular kinds of exercises, squats and things, after people have taken creatine and a placebo. And so for a few of these things, this seems like maybe there's a difference, and there does maybe there's some difference long term in the types of muscle fibers that are around. Is it different from placebo? I don't know. I'm pretty suspicious of these data. But maybe, I'm not impressed, but maybe. Effect of creatine on skeletal muscle hypertrophy. Does it change the, does it change the hormonal signaling so that you, get bigger muscles? I don't think this data says that. I mean, maybe that's what they say. They're abstract, but I don't think that's what their data say. maybe. I think you have to ascribe religious properties to this bar graph to make that claim. But but is there no obvious visible change? Are you talking about on the slide on the right here, Andrew? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there does seem to be something different there. I mean, part of what, how you approach the world as a professional scientist. So like part of my view of the world is, I'm a skeptic, right? And maybe the things on the right, yeah, they look convincing. Yeah. And if that really is a representative sample of everything that looks, if it's a good representation of the data, then yeah, sure, I would believe that. The bar graph on the left looks pretty unconvincing, though. I don't know. But what was their experimental approach? Yeah, Annika's asking about that. And are there studies found in creatine-producing companies? I don't actually think that that's the case, Francisca. I think there's very little company-steered bias in research. I think that's not something that I see a lot of. There's an awful lot of bias-steered results, though. So when you believe a result, or you believe an outcome, or you anticipate an outcome, there's an awful lot of confirmation bias that happens in science. And so that's one of the things you have to fight with yourself, is that all of us have biases about science and what we think is going to happen. And so you have to fight with yourself, because your brain and your scientific chops are not always aligned in the same direction. So maybe. I would say I would say it's a little equivocal, at least for the graph on the left. Effects of creatine on lactate buildup. Okay, so the theory here is that if you're taking creatine, you have more creatine phosphate, so you have less glycolysis. Like I think that would be the rationale for this. So if you're making lots of ATP from creatine phosphate, you wouldn't need it from lactate, right? Is that an intuitive result? Um, so what do you think? Should we find out what happens when you give creatine? In the next exciting example, we have these data. So cycling with and without creatine, is there a difference? Placebo and creatine? I don't know, maybe. It would be helpful if they put it on the same graph instead of two different graphs, right? So like, where is that? 8. It's going to the, hey, stop that. Stop that. It's going to, right? Hey, I have to remind my pen that it wants to participate in the activities here. Participate in the festivities, please, pen. Right, so we have that point right there, and it comes to 10 right here. So I guess this is arguing that going to 12, I think if we were to put this on the same scale, 12 plus or minus an error bar like that is different from this curve. I think that's what they're trying to say. What do you think? I don't know. I'm also not terribly convinced by that. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. What is that? Did I get that right? Is that 12? No, it looks more like more like 13. So that's, yeah, no, I think I have it drawn right. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that different? Maybe. Hey, stop that. Move on. There we go. So potential side effects of creatine. So people have looked at, is it dangerous? And, they've looked at all kinds of things. Similarly, it doesn't really seem to make any difference. I don't think that eating creatine is really any different from eating glutamine or those sorts of things. So I don't see any reason why it would potentially cause problems. And the literature seems to agree. It doesn't seem to cause problems. So it has some equivocal effects, I guess, is what we could say. And so here's the summary of what the NIH say. Does it work? So some trials say benefits for a high intensity intermittent activity might increase strength, helps body adapt to athletes, maybe. I think that the research evidence is pretty vague. Then evidence for safety, it's probably fine. There's some anecdotal reports of headache, side effects may include. But I think that overall, safe to use, equivocal results. Branch chain amino acids. Let's talk about this. So you guys probably remember leucine, valine isoleucine. You're probably right now very eager to discuss the catabolism pathways. Tell me one enzyme in the catabolism of branch chain amino acids. Go, 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 go. Branch chain amino acids. How are they catabolized? Chat, wake up. One enzyme. Transaminase, yeah, branch chain keto acid transaminase makes it keto acids, right? That's fine. So, you could say that they're really essential for muscles. Maybe, I don't know. Remember, this is how we break them down. They make these pathways. This should look familiar to you. So, do they have any effect on exercise? I don't know. Let's find out. There's effects of phosphorylation on mTOR. Is this somehow related to muscle hypertrophy? Maybe, yeah. I don't know. 1 hour after exercise, you see transcriptional changes if people have branched chain amino acids. Yeah. I don't know. The bar graph looks different. Effects of branched chain amino acids on muscle recovery. Muscle soreness in millimeters. So, I don't know. I guess these data are saying that the area under the curve here is supposed to look different between the placebo and the control. I mean, they're not showing. I notice here that they're not showing the positive and negative error bars on this curve, which would make it look like that. So I don't know about that. I'm not so convinced. Okay, does it work? There have been a few trials. It's not really all that convincing. No safety concerns. You're free to eat amino acids. They don't hurt you. So glutamine, the most abundant amino acid in your body. Glutamine is, in fact, the second most abundant carbon source in your blood after glucose, which is why cancer cells like to catabolize it. A lot of your other cells eat it. As you know, it's brought in, so directly ties into all kinds of stuff in the central carbon metabolism. So there are all kinds of crazy claims about what glutamine does. Under what conditions would it be theoretically more advantageous to have branched chain amino acids, regular proteins? I don't know. what I mean, I guess the underlying theory here for the branched chain amino acids is like it's supposed to be somehow manipulating a regulatory pathway that leads to muscles getting bigger or something like that, or recovery. That's why that whole mTOR signaling cascade's in there. Is that different for eating steaks? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Are we deficient in, the amount of protein that you need to maintain your muscles is the size of a deck of cards. That's how much you need to consume each day. So, of course, athletes are under like a lot higher demands than, just people at regular steady state, but like, that much meat is enough. So I don't know about that. I don't know if people are really deficient for amino acids. I don't think they are. Spend less time eating steak and more time picking things up and putting them down again. Maybe. All right. So let's talk about glutamine. Glutamine, as I said, second most abundant carbon source in your blood, by far the most abundant amino acid. Eating it, does that help? Hey, the slide's not advancing. Come on now. There we go. Do you bench press more? I think this data says that after 6 weeks of exercise, you can bench press more. I think that's what that says. I don't think it says anything about glutamine. So changes in TCA levels. I don't know why eating glutamine would change TCA levels, right? If after from your own study of flux balance analysis, how much do you think eating glutamine will change intracellular TCA cycle intermediates? What happens when you bring more carbon in? Where does it go? Chat. What happens as carbon comes in? Carbon goes out. That's flux balance. Yeah, I don't buy that. So effective glutamine on muscle recovery. There's also a little bit of suspiciousness on the error bars here. If we plot these in both directions, it would look like that, right? So I don't know, chat. Maybe at 96, maybe. Yeah. All right. So some studies out there say it may enhance performance, may help recovery gain. It's certainly not a concern for taking as a supplement at sort of like normal doses. So I don't think there are any safety issues. Protein. Let's talk about this. So lots of people are interested in protein. I guess I already kind of talked about this. Isoflex. This is just a brand that's of interest to athletes, and it's supposed to promote muscle growth. Of course, amino acids are a critical element of putting on muscle, and so you definitely do need amino acids to make new muscle. And so that is, and certain number of those amino acids, as you know, are essential, are things that we can't make, so you have to get them from the diet. So There definitely some underpinning of, eating protein will help a lot. But keep in mind again, like, an athlete will be putting on muscle over the course of like 5 years, or 10 years, right? It takes an extremely long time to build an athletic body, right? And, the amount of amino acids you need to ultimately make your muscles that size is a vanishingly small amount of additional protein each day, right? So eating protein shakes and all that does not make your muscles, or like, I don't think you're really deficient for amino acids. Like your body has plenty. You're using the amino acids as primarily, I think, for energy and peeing out a lot of nitrogen when you take a lot of extra protein. Thing I think about protein supplements, if it's a small quantities, like you have them in a shake or something like that, no problem with that. But it may, I don't think it's any different from eating a regular meal. Okay, whey protein. This is just a particular kind of protein that they've isolated. So it's a mixture of, the so when you take milk and you make skim milk, you get left over with this thing called whey. Or I'm sorry, when you take the proteins out of milk, sorry, you get this thing called whey. And yeah, it's made up of a few different things, albumin and some other things. So I don't know why, why that would be any particularly different from other proteins, but it's something that's of interest. It's digested again, like in the stomach, and we have these peptidases that chop up proteins and convert them into amino acids, as you know. They're brought in, these endopeptidases cut in the middle of the proteins. You have things like trypsin, chymotrypsin. You have exopeptidases that chew off the ends and release the amino acids, dipeptidopeptidases that cut them off 2 units at a time. We take those in, and they end up in your body as amino acids. And so it's, does protein that you take as a supplement get into your body? Yeah, sure. Is it, is it absorbed? Yeah, sure. Does it get to your bloodstream, TCA, cycle intermediates? Heck yeah. It definitely gets there through all these mechanisms that we learned about. Does it affect protein, or does it affect performance on energy? I don't know about that. So here's some data. So here are changes in fatigue and cycling time, like where we have different supplementations here. Again, I'm going to go ahead and draw the error bars in both directions on these charts. Thing is less convincing when you draw the error bars in both directions. Effective protein on resistance. That doesn't look very convincing. Changes in squat strength. Whey protein, regular versus regular protein. I don't know. So I think I have that, Brad. Are immunoglobulins safe? Yeah, out of milk. You drink them all the time when you're drinking milk. Yeah. Why do they have an asterisk? So that's how they. Good point. So what are all these asterisks? So this is how in scientific figures they denote significance. So what that means is that's got a p-value of 0.05 typically, and the double one is a 0.05. So they stay statistically significant via t-test. We can have a separate lecture at some point. The people who have my graduate classes will know I have a few things to say on that matter. But suffice to say that if you apply a t-test to their data, that shows a statistically significant result, and that's what they're reporting here in the figure. Does a statistically significant result mean a big magnitude difference? No, it doesn't necessarily mean it. And does have finding of statistical significance mean that particular activity is that you've proven a result? It doesn't necessarily mean that either. So we'll have to have a separate lecture sometime about it. But what I can safely say here is that these data show statistically significant differences between before and after exercise on this. So we can have a separate discussion about stats another time. Okay, I'm going to have to charge for it here. I'm having too much fun, not making enough progress. Perspective from the NIH. So lots of clinical trial. You know, it's some studies do suggest that there's optimized, it may optimize recovery. And there's no safety concerns. I don't know why eating whey protein would be bad. You can eat whey protein. Your body is perfectly happy to catabolize it into amino acids. So, okay. So I think up until this point, we've been talking about things that, they're equivocal. They may have some impact. Certainly there are going to be cases and circumstances, and maybe in really extreme athletes or people who have nutritional deficiencies, where definitely would have significant impact. I think a lot of the data here says, if it has an impact, it may have a real impact, but it's not a huge magnitude impact, right? I think that's a safe categorization of the data that we see. They may be statistically significant, but not high magnitude differences. And now let's talk about Red Bull energy drinks. So, of course, Red Bull makes us famous. They make all kinds of claims about improving exercise and cognitive function and things like that. Of course, all these energy drinks have a ingredient in common. That's this thing here, caffeine. If we do have time in this class, we'll talk about like psychotropic drugs and metabolism that affects, cognitive function. If people are interested in that, we can have a lecture on that. But this is definitely one that does. So caffeine absolutely modulates their neural activities in your brain, which is why we get addicted to coffee and drink energy drinks and this sort of thing. It absolutely does manipulate our physiology. As a sidebar, I had a physiology lab class in college, which evidently didn't have very tight controls. We dosed ourselves with, like, I don't remember what it was. It was a massive quantity of caffeine, and then we're going to measure blood pressure, heart rate, blood pressure, this sort of thing over time, which we did. So we took I don't remember what it was like. It was the equivalent of like 10 cups of espresso. We took this quantity of caffeine, and then everybody in the study section that I was in spent the night throwing up. I slept like a baby. So I don't know what that means. As it turns out, I learned later is that there are actually two different forms of cyclic AMP, the enzyme that breaks down cyclic AMP, which is how caffeine signals. And there are mutations that in a certain segment of the population that break that down a lot faster. And so people who are caffeine junkies and have crazy amounts may have that mutation. That sort of lessens the impact of caffeine. Anyway, so does it have an effect? Well, running time to exhaustion. I don't know, guys. Doesn't look very convincing. Potential adverse effects of energy drinks. Does it induce insulin resistance? I don't know. I also don't believe these data. Is there any difference in between the caffeine and placebo? I don't know. People have been trying to pin bad things on coffee for a half century and have failed. So I don't think caffeine, I mean, at moderate, in moderate consumption really has any impact on it. And only half of the error bars are showing it. Yeah, right. Yeah, you gotta be suspicious when the error bars look like that. Okay. All right. Perspective from the NIH. So, does caffeine work? Hell yeah, it works. We wouldn't have the entire planet addicted to it if it doesn't work. This is for improving cognitive function, or at least making you less sleepy. Does it have problems? Yeah, it'll keep you awake. Do I need to tell you about that? Do it raise your heart rate? Make you, don't take it before a job interview. It's like, but yeah, does it do stuff? Absolutely. Of course it does. But that's not the only thing that they put in energy drinks. I swear they open up a Sigma-Aldrich catalog and they put things in. So like one of the things that goes into Red Bull is not just caffeine, which absolutely does something. They also put taurine. What is taurine, you ask? Well, taurine is something that is derived from cysteine. It looks like cysteine. It's been decarboxylated, and it has this sulfate on the end, okay? So this is why bar graphs are the worst. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with bar graphs. Like they communicate data. Like yeah, they are just a way of communicating information. So don't blame the bar graphs. They're fine. Stop that. I don't want to edit settings. So let's talk about taurine. So taurine, I guess if I were going to write an energy ad for this thing, I'd say taurine is essential, essential derivative of one of the most necessary amino acids, sulfur, to power your body. Disulfide bridges make proteins stronger, right? Something like that. We can write the marketing material for taurine. Do you guys want to know what is taurine? Where was it isolated from? Do people want to know? Yeah. What's taurine? What's taurine? Where did you get it from? Bull testicles. Oh, you already know. Damn it. Yeah, so taurine was actually named after bulls. And so it's, but it was in fact first isolated from bull semen. So the next time you have a Red Bull, I can't imagine why they did. Well, I know you can get it from bile, but can't imagine why they didn't put that in their marketing campaign. So secret ingredient. So there has been some concern in Reddit threads about the source of taurine in Red Bull. And I can assure you that their people are sourcing it from non-organic sources. So yeah, does taurine do anything? No, taurine doesn't do anything. Am I back? Uh-oh, am I back?
No.
Yeah, what's going on? Start video. I'm back. I don't know what happened. Zoom. Anyway, it is technically, yeah, it's got a sulfate on it and it's got an amine on it. Okay, so what's catabolism of how does it fit in things? Well, it's supposed to regulate the catabolism of a variety of things. So suppression of different reactive oxygen species. These are all things that are supposed to be modulated by taurine. Does it have any impact on activity? I don't know. I don't know about these data. Changes in strength. Let's take a look at this. So in day 1, you're strong. On day 14, you're weak. And then on day 16, you're strong again, but less strong with placebo. I don't know. Come on, guys. Are you convinced about that? Changes in muscle soreness. I don't know. Is that maybe changes in muscle creatine activity? Boy, well, this looks real. Yeah. So, I mean, that looks, yeah, maybe. And then this, come on. So I don't know. Oral effect of ingestion on taurine content. Okay, you eat taurine, does it do anything? I don't know, guys. I'm not convinced about that. Okay, so so we've had some fun today. What do all these things mean? So definitely athletes believe anecdotally that taking these kinds of supplements, they can report, they feel stronger, they do better. So what the heck is going on here? So one of the things that's real for sure is, if you believe something is going to help, it helps. And this is not in some kind of like um, small theoretical kind of way. Placebo is an extremely powerful activity. Placebo has um, significantly improved survival rates from cancer. You can give people a sugar pill, and if they believe in their sugar pill, people will have better survival rates from cancer by a lot. It's not a small amount, it's something like 15%. Um, your entire body is innervated, your immune system's innervated, your muscles are innervated, and having the being convinced of an activity is going to help you. In fact, really does help you for a lot of things.
La pantalla. Sí, ok.
Sí, es importante. Can we mute that, please? um, so, so I think that probably my opinion on this is mostly what you're seeing is on this reported anecdotally from athletes is placebo. Um, they're noticing effects because there are real effects, and those real effects are induced by placebo. Um, does the biochemistry support any substantial difference in performance? Not really. Like maybe like here we go through the error bars there and find one point in the 50 curves is different. Maybe like, is it a difference of, is it a difference of 1%? Yeah. So I think this is my feeling on it is that so long as things are done in moderation, there's no harm in it. And if you're an athlete and you're like at the very edge of performance, maybe they do have some impact. And if that makes you perform better and is there among the things that we're talking about here, then like I think that's okay. In general, though, my recommendation for things outside of the scope of what we talked about is you should not experiment with your body. Like you should do biochemistry on organisms that you're not dependent on. You're pretty dependent on yourself. So you should not do weird things with what you eat and the things that you take long term, because you are the only vessel for you. And doing biochemistry experiments on yourself is sort of undesirable. That's all I really had to say today. If you guys want to chat, I'm happy to chat. Yeah, let's hear your thoughts. Annika. Could there ever be an effect for certain people depending on certain circuits? Yeah, absolutely. So this is all the conversation we're talking about is in the context of regular athletics, regular people. Are there cases where modifying your diet has an impact on people? Heck yeah. If you have deficiencies, like if you are oxytrophic for an amino acid, I'm trying to think if there's actually a case for that, but there may be. I'll have to go back and think. People who have mutations in certain amino acid in processing enzymes may actually be dependent on exogenous supplements. And so, yeah, absolutely. There are cases where modifying diet is absolutely essential. There's certainly cases where modifying diet to remove particular amino acids is important. We've talked about a number of those. Robin, what about different forms of sugar alternatives? I don't know. What are you talking about? Sucralose or like the synthetic things like that? Or were you talking about like aspartame? You know, um, there are different kinds of sugars. They get processed in different kinds of ways. Mostly, they end up entering glycolysis, unless it's like sucralose, which has been engineered not to be
Oh,
processed.
yeah, I was just wondering because I thought there was one that they said had chlorine in it and they couldn't figure out where it went within the body, but I'm not sure if that was stevia when it was first coming out or not.
I don't remember about stevia. It's a stimulant though. That's not a sugar, right? Isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think it's a sugar.
We'll have to take that one offline because I don't remember. I don't know its biochemistry. Um, could it help in the context of timing? We have some people wondering, like helping out your body reproduce, return. Yeah, maybe. So, I mean, yeah, and I think that's what some of the like we were trying to get at. Like, so one thing I don't want to like dog this too much, which is that there's real effects here when athletes take this. Like they have real anecdotal improvements, right? So what's that coming from? Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's in maybe in the timing or in replenishing energy supplies or these sorts of things. That's kind of the context of the thought in those things. Or it may just be placebo, but placebo is a real thing if you really believe it. Jacqueline, are there any evidence that the benefit from vitamins added in energy drinks? Well, I mean, if you're vitamin deficient, sure, like B12. If you're B12 deficient, sure, taking vitamin supplements might be good for you. Very few people are vitamin deficient, though, with the exception of vitamin D deficiency in Canada, is a no joke, because we all live inside and there's no sun. So, drink your milk. Maybe it just counteracts caffeine headache. Maybe, yeah. I don't know about that. Anyhow, this is a lot of fun, guys. We're over time. I always love this lecture. Happy to chat more if you guys have thoughts. And yeah, if you vote for it, we might do a mind-altering substance lecture at some point, because that's also part of the metabolic world. We could do that one. All right. Yes, Brandon says. Okay, we could do it. See you guys.